Hey guys, welcome to the NASCAR Weekly Podcast. This is Danny B. I'm your host for the week. We've got a lot of great people to talk to and a lot of great things to discuss. Welcome to the show.
Green flag, green flag. I'll roll him, I'll roll him. He's flipping me up! Ah! Hell yeah, boys! How about that? They cut! What's it in the wall? He drew it off the track! Baby, that's how you do it. Get that second flag, son. Yeah, baby, yeah! Hell yeah!
Hey guys, welcome back.
Get an easy lift up into your truck with running boards or Nerf bars, designed to make getting into your truck.
Oh my god. Okay. Welcome. We love laughs, and that's my computer giving me an ad on my computer. Thanks. Yeah. Welcome to the show. We keep it professional here. We're here with Austin Theriault. Austin, thank you. Sorry that had to be kind of an awkward transition there.
Hey, no problem, guys. Good to be with you tonight.
We'll have you on, man.
Yeah, sweet.
I've watched the podcast a couple times. It's good to finally be on.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
it must have been a couple months ago.
We've updated.
I know.
Yeah, big time.
Well, awesome. We've also got another special guest here, and we really love that you could come on with us on this time because it really worked out. Because our other guest here, KamikazeGames, is well known for being a big fan of you, so I'm sure he's very happy to be here with you.
Hey, bud, how you doing tonight?
How is it going, Austin Theriault? It is amazing to see you. Yeah, there's 2 feet of snow on the way, and I am bearing this because I'm not going to miss this for anything.
We feel like we're like,
where there's 2 feet of snow coming.
What?
Where are you at right now? Where there's 2 feet of snow?
I am in North Dakota. I am in a hotel, and so long, if I do get snowed in, at least I'll have a bed. So basically, I got my bases covered on that one.
I was going to ask, with the picture behind you, I said, is that your choice of pictures?
No, not mine. Just got some bison over, just every day.
some North Dakota culture.
Thoroughbreds.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We like our cows up here. They're pure.
In the other Dakota, right?
Right.
Better than the other Dakota. Boo. Don't even mention it.
The Dakotas have a strong rivalry. Like, I never really hear about that.
It's kind of a joke, but at the same time, you kind of want to be the better of the two.
Yeah, got to be the 49th best state instead of the 50th, right?
Boom, you got it.
Well, getting off the subject of Dakota culture, Austin, thanks again for coming on. How's the race season looking for you so far?
The race season's coming together. It actually looks a lot better than it did in November. In November, I didn't really have anything scheduled for 2019 at all. And then Ricky Benton called me, he's the owner of the Black's Tire number 92 truck in the Gander Outdoors Truck Series. It's hard to remember. They changed the name. I keep getting it mixed up. I want to call it Camping World Truck Series, but either way. So that season's shaping up. It's not full time. Everybody wants to race full time, but there's not many opportunities. There's only a few opportunities in good trucks. So to have an opportunity with him in a pretty decent truck, a truck that's been on the racetrack with Timothy Peters, David Gilliland, some of the really bigger name guys on the circuit, or have at least raced. David's raced in the Cup Series, so it's going to be good to get back sort of at the racetrack, and Martinsville's actually our next race. I think we have Charlotte on the schedule, possibly Dover on the schedule, and then I have a feeling if we do well at those races, or if we do well at Martinsville, if we do well at Charlotte, probably have the potential of adding more races. And then something else I'm working on actually, which is really haven't talked much about. It's not that I'm trying to avoid it. It's just because we all know that it takes sponsorship to get to that level. But I'm working on a couple opportunities to maybe do some cup stuff later on in the year. But
Awesome.
like I said, there's a lot of moving puzzle pieces, or a lot of moving gears to make all of that come together. So I'm not pushing that too much, especially on like social media. But actually, I think it's a good conversation to have. And we can talk about it later, but it's the whole debate between, are you better off running in the truck series in maybe better equipment, or are you better off getting into the Cup Series and running 30th, because I think it's a really good conversation, and people are having it now. Just looking at the landscape, look at some of the drivers, especially this year, that were racing for 30 or 30th, 35th, like the 32 Cup car. He went up and is with a better team now. So it's not as bad as it used to. It doesn't look as bad as it used to, as far as like people actually getting the opportunities to get to better equipment.
Right, and that's definitely understandable. Hearing you talk about that, we've seen a fair amount of drivers who had Cup experience, like Elliott Sadler, Justin Allgaier. They went down into the series from previous, and seen a lot of success. You look at truck series, there's a lot of guys like that: Todd Bodine, Matt Crafton, Johnny Sauter, Ron Hornaday. They made their career in the truck series. I mean, there's nothing wrong, with doing that, like you said.
Absolutely. It seems like
Oh, we lost him.
hopefully I didn't lose you there. You still got back.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
I had a call coming in. I don't know. I should have. It shouldn't have done that. But the point I was trying to make was, it seems like it's harder for those guys like the Todd Bodines of the past to go ahead and make a career in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. I feel like one of the reasons that those guys that you just mentioned are able to come back and race in the Xfinity Series is they're bringing sponsorship from the Cup Series, and those sponsors will stay with them, right? And they can win races and good equipment, because a sponsor that was able to afford an investment of a 25th place Cup team may actually be able to run up front in an Xfinity field. But as far as from a career standpoint as a driver, if you're young and you want to make a career of it, I don't know. I think you almost got to try to be in the Cup Series at some point. You can't waste too much time in the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series.
So it sounds like you're of the mindset of, maybe get to Cup Series, even if you're in not great equipment. Is that kind of the route that you're kind of coming around on, thinking that's the best way to go? Like I've seen this year, Matt Tifft moved up from Xfinity. He's now in the 36 car, I believe, and I don't think that's a top tier ride. But from what you're saying, it makes sense maybe for him career wise. Is that kind of the trend you would find yourself going, or you would like to go towards?
Yeah, it's interesting, because a couple of years ago I never would have said yes. I wouldn't have agreed with what you just said. I would have said no. You need to stay and run the whether it's the Can-Am Series or ARCA Series, Truck Series, Xfinity Series. But what I'm finding now is, like, especially from a marketing standpoint and even a career standpoint, if you're in your 20s and you've got some starts in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, and you're not really gaining much traction from a sponsorship standpoint, and you need to get in front of some companies that only want to be on the Cup scene, well, then you got to be on the Cup scene. And how do you get on the Cup scene? Is you might have to take a ride in a lesser performing car, but at least you can sell yourself as a Cup driver. Now, I'm not saying that's the ideal situation. Obviously, everybody wants to be in Jimmy Johnson's spot, right? You want to have the opportunity to win a race every single weekend, or whether it's Larson, Chase Elliott, like all of those guys. But there's only so many opportunities like that out there. So you got to look and look at it from a realistic standpoint.
Now, Austin, here's a question I want to ask you. And, if you don't mind me asking this, we get a lot of younger viewers who watch this, and maybe even a lot of younger aspiring race car drivers who may be tuning in this just to see what's happening in the world of NASCAR, and maybe get a unique opportunity to ask you this. And what are your suggestions to young guys, young girls who are looking to take their racing career in the next step? Last week I think we had on Ryan Vargas. He's climbing his way up the ladder. He's still a very young guy. What kind of tips would you give to someone who's kind of like in a place that you maybe were just a few years ago?
Well, it's funny you bring up Ryan, because I actually feel like Ryan's a good example of what a lot of young drivers should actually be doing. He's on social media. He's good at marketing. He's presentable. Like, he's easy to talk to. I see him at the racetrack all the time, and we joke around about like starting podcasts and all that stuff. But for people that maybe are on the outside of this whole industry in North Carolina, it's funny you ask, because I even get people that reach out that are mechanics, or they want to be engineers, or they want to work on a team of some sort. The biggest thing is you just got to be at the racetrack. So whether you're talking about a short track up in North Dakota or Maine or Florida, going to New Smyrna runs weekly and some weekends, and you're an aspiring engineer or mechanic or want to be a crew chief, well, you got to put yourself around these people, and you can't go to the top. Like, you're not going to walk into Daytona International Speedway and it'd be cool to introduce yourself to like the CEO of NASCAR, but you got to work up through the levels, whether you're a driver, mechanic, or engineer. From a driving standpoint, unfortunately, it's the pairing of being a good race car driver and having sponsorship. And as much as we want to spin it, that's kind of the way the industry is right now. So you got to balance your time between totally focusing on like your racing actually behind the wheel, and spend a fair amount of time trying to find sponsors and trying to connect with business people and trying to connect with people that have never even considered sponsorship. You can't go to Coca-Cola and ask them for them to sponsor you, but maybe there's a company that's only been around for a couple of years that's looking to like expand their audience, and those are the companies you need to target. Now I'm giving my own advice. That's what I do a lot of during the week. Is I may reach out to people that are with new companies. You can't go and ask somebody that's been asked 100 times if they want to sponsor a race car, because chances are they're going to say no. So it's always about trying to be different and trying to like fish in a different pond than where everybody else is fishing, because chances are the cup teams, the well-funded teams are gonna catch the big fish, and so you gotta fish in the pond that's more realistic to where you're at in your career.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you really quick. So in your NASCAR career, you started off driving for some major teams. For example, Junior Motorsports, you made a few starts for them in 2014. Then in 2015, you made some starts with Brad Keselowski in the trucks. And nowadays you're kind of just floating around there and stuff. Just give the fans an idea of what driving for those mega buck teams and those backmarker teams is like. Like, what are some of the major differences?
Well, certainly what comes with the front marker team or the front running teams is the pressure. So the team doesn't care whether you're 18 and just coming out of late models, and now you're in a position to run in the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series. At the end of the day, you're expected to perform, and that's one of the things that if I could go back and look at my career, I would have spent more time like just getting experience at some of the tracks before agreeing to race for the big teams. That I felt like I would have performed better. So if I would have waited until I was, I don't know, whether it was a year or 2 years, if I would have had those opportunities in the Xfinity Series with like the really good teams, the well-funded teams, chances are I would have performed a lot better. So you can't rush yourself either. When you're ready, you'll know. And here's the thing that I feel like a lot of drivers face is they get advice from people that don't really understand the competition of racing. They've never driven. And so you have all these people saying, hey, you need to go here, you need to do this, you need to do that. And like, we don't have time. You don't have time to waste 6 months running with a team that's going to get you experience at these other tracks. You need to get with the best teams and et cetera, et cetera. And what happens is people end up underperforming. Now, I'm not saying that's what I did, even though looking back at it, knowing what I know now, if I'm in the 5 car like I was in 2014, I'm not going to finish 15th, or was it 15th at Iowa. I'm going to finish a lot better than that. So it's the combination between experience, like you can't rush yourself. So you got to be you got to be strong. You got to be confident as a person to tell whether you got somebody advising you or people telling you, pushing you along the levels, pushing you up the ladder. Hey, just let me get my feet under me before I go to the good team, or before I take on more than I can chew. Because at the end of the day, I think you get 1 or 2 shots at this. And so if you blow it your first shot, you might get a second or third shot. But if you keep underperforming because you don't have the experience, people aren't going to look at you the same. So I hope I answered your question with that. And it gets a lot of drivers. It does get a lot of drivers, and we've seen a lot of them throughout the years. You know, they're here for a year or two, and then they're gone, and you never hear from them again. And a lot of times that's what happens.
I definitely like that comment you made about, people who do know the garage, being able to, those are people who can really give someone good advice. Like you're a perfect guy for people to learn from. Me, I'm just a NASCAR fan. I sell Toyota. I tell you all about a Camry XSC, what makes it so awesome. But, I can tell you nothing about how to drive a Camry stock car. There's two big differences here. I'm just a fan of NASCAR, and, take what I see as a fan and separate that from what someone who's actually there working in it can tell you. And I don't want anyone to ever confuse of anyone, myself or anyone on this podcast, claiming to be an expert in NASCAR or anything like that. When, people like Austin, those are real people to listen to.
I want to ask a quick kind of like follow-up actually to what you were just talking about though, Austin, about how some drivers kind of rush their way through the lower series to get into the top series of NASCAR. And like, what do you think is the driving reason behind that? You think they're just like a car becomes open and they just want to dive into it? Or do you think there's more of like is it the money? Because I know like Haley Deegan's got a lot of powerful sponsors. I know she's still in the K&N series. So you tend to think she's pretty well supported. And that's why you've heard everyone in her camp say that they're going to like not rush her, that she's going to take her time in the lower series. Is that just kind of like something she can afford and not a lot of other drivers can? Is that kind of what you think causes it? Just a little more on that.
That's a good point to bring up. Like if you only have what you figure a couple years of sponsorship, well then that's a whole different scenario, right? Mm-hmm. Compared to somebody that either has manufacturer backing or has sponsorship lined up for the next 5 to 6 years, you can take a little bit more time, and so you're ready for whether it's a truck at KBM or another opportunity at the highest high performing equipment. You're going to be able to capitalize on it. So if you're like me or a lot of other drivers that sort of come up through and over the years you've secured some sponsorship and you understand how the business works. But the easiest way I can explain it is like it feels like somebody's looking over your shoulder, kind of hurrying you along or telling you, hey, the clock is ticking. You better get to the Cup level, or you better get to the Xfinity level. But looking back at it now, I guess my point is, even if you have what you consider limited funding, it may be smart to take a little bit of a slower approach and still not rush yourself, because it doesn't do any good. It doesn't do any good. I feel like sometimes it makes you look bad if you just don't have the experience to back up the opportunity that you have. I don't care how good of a driver you are. I mean, unless you're Kyle Busch or somebody that's just born with extremely, unnatural talent, then you need to get experience. You need to visit all these different tracks. You need to know what the tires feel like. You need to know what the cars feel like, and it just take reps. It's like reps going to the gym, right? The more you rep, the bigger you're going to be, the stronger you're going to be. It's like that with racing. So the more money you have, the more reps you can make, and or the less sponsorship you have, you got to be a little bit smarter about what move you make.
In our chat, actually kind of going off of that, one of the people in the chat called NASCAR Weekly Podcast Mod, he asked the question, how are the cars different in each of the different series? Like how do they drive differently, I guess is what he's asking.
Well, they do drive different. And the cool thing, and maybe not so much if you're a driver, because it seems like you never keep up with it. When NASCAR changes the rules, they seem to like make really big swings from like a downforce perspective and from a horsepower perspective. Everybody knows what NASCAR is doing now, at least if you're following right in the Cup Series, but not many people know what's going on at the ARCA level and the truck level and the Xfinity level, because they don't talk about it as much. Like they don't make as many changes. So from what used to be the Cup Series just a couple years ago, they had the tiny spoiler on them.
Yeah.
And then the trucks had the bigger spoiler, have more drag. Now people used to say, well, you don't want to race the Truck Series because you're not going to learn anything for the Cup Series. But now, it's weird. Now they're actually closer together than the Xfinity Series. Now I don't know if the Xfinity Series is going to go in that direction or not, but it'd be cool to see. So the what they call the high drag, lower horsepower, I think that package is here at least for 2019. I don't know what's going to happen in 2020. So the Truck Series and the Cup Series are a little bit closer together as far as like drag and how much you're actually on the throttle. It feels like when you go to these 1.5 miles, it's like a super speedway race for a lap because it's all about the draft and where you put yourself. I actually haven't I haven't been in the Xfinity Series since they changed to the package of recent. So I can't really give much feedback on that, but I can tell you that it's it used to be with the small spoiler in the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series were closer, and now it's not enough. I don't even think you can compare. And the ARCA Series the same way. The ARCA Series is like the Cup Series used to be like 5 to 6 years ago. Like they have a good amount of horsepower. They're on a radial tire, which is like all 3 series, whether it's a Cup Series, Xfinity Series, Truck Series, ARCA Series, all on the same radial tire. And it's like a mix between the high downforce package, the high drag package, what the Cup Series has now, and what it used to be last year. It's kind of like intermediate between the two.
All right.
Well,
That was a technical question. I think I made that a little bit more technical than it needed to be, but hopefully he understands what I was trying to say.
I think he does. No. Yeah, he just put in the chat right now. Thank you for answering my question. So, yeah, thank you.
Now, speaking of questions, the 4 hosts have had plenty of questions, but I've been wanting just to hear. I just want to sit back and just listen to Kamikaze get the chance just to talk with you. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, everyone's looking forward to it.
Where you been, bro? You've been quiet.
Yeah, I've just been taking this in, is what I've been doing.
I feel like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. We just made we just made Kamikaze.
Right? It's like my birthday over here.
He's gonna need to talk to you later about some things he needs autographed. Okay.
Yeah, just a few. Need a mailing address. Will you pay for postage? That'd be appreciated. Whatnot.
Yeah, he is definitely one of your biggest fans.
Well, thanks for being a fan. I wish I was racing a little bit more, but
yeah,
I think
me
I
too.
gave you a little bit of a glimpse into what it takes. Right? It's a combination of a lot of different things.
Yeah, so that's kind of a lead into my next question. So the last time you were racing a little bit more was in ARCA, and you ended up winning a title. So just talk about that for a little bit.
Well, that was an awesome year. It's hard to believe.
Look at the diecast, Kamikaze.
Yeah, it's either
I'm
signed,
not gonna
right?
have this with me.
Perfect.
Is it signed?
Yeah.
It's signed,
Okay.
yeah. Don't worry.
I spent a lot of time signing all those diecasts, so I wanted to make sure it was.
Well, your good work has clearly been fruitful, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, so going back to your question, that was like, I guess you could call that sort of the highlight of my career as far as being able to put a whole year together. Up until that point, up until 2017 with Schrader, I had never had the opportunity to race full-time in the National Series. I had done some truck racing for Brad, Xfinity racing for Junior. Obviously late model before then I've raced full seasons, but nothing at the national level. And he's got decent equipment. Schrader had decent equipment, but the 52 hadn't run full time in a while either. So from February to I think the season ended. Yeah, season ends in October. I mean, what we were able to put together, I feel like it's not going to go down in history or anything like that, but it certainly goes down as a memorable year. It's kind of rare that you look at it, and if you put it on paper, like between the winning percentage and the top 10 percentage and how consistent we were, you don't see that very often anymore. I mean, obviously Kyle Busch, it's a little bit different when Kyle's on the racetrack, but and then number two, the friendships that I made at that organization, I mean, I'm still friends with all those people. All those people, a lot of them aren't there anymore because unfortunately, Schrader's not racing full time right now because of lack of sponsorship. But at the end of the day, like all of those guys made such an impact on me and my career that all I wanted to do was get him a championship, and I wanted to get Schrader a championship. And it was really cool to be able to accomplish like everything that we set out at the beginning of the year, from winning at Daytona to, winning 7 races and a championship. It's just not something that happens very often. So you really got to take it in, and I'm excited I had that opportunity.
Hearing you say that, I want to ask you this: like, even though it's not the Daytona 500, you still can say you've won at Daytona. You've won at one of the most iconic tracks ever. How does that feel to you?
It's pretty amazing. In 2015, I stood at Victory Lane when Tyler Reddick had won the Truck Series race. We were teammates, and I helped push him to Victory Lane, and I think I ended up finishing 3rd or 4th in like a 3-wide finish to the start finish line. But that really, even though I like Tyler, he's a friend of mine, that really kind of irked me because everybody wants to get to Daytona Victory Lane. And finally, it took a couple years to get back there, but I finally had an opportunity to see what it felt like to sit or to hold a trophy in Daytona Victory Lane and have that, iconic name behind you. I don't care whether it's the ARCA Series or the Truck Series or if you're racing mini stocks at Daytona, there's something about that track, and nobody can take that away from you.
I have to ask, going back with your championship season, I know as a fan, like in 2016, I'm a big Cubs fan, and there's like a certain point where you realize like what you were watching was magic, and it was just all coming together. Was there a certain point in the season for you being in that moment where you're just like, wow, this is magical. I can't believe this is happening?
Actually, to expand on that a little bit, I think it was Iowa when the points got closer than they ever had, like midway through the season. Me and Dalton Sargent and I were running for the championship, and I think I was first, he was second. Was it Iowa, or was one of those shorter tracks in midway through the year? And you felt like the pressure was building because the points were getting closer. We had a little bit of a lead, and it was like evaporating. He was winning some races. I think he won Iowa, right? And I finished 2nd or 3rd. And then I believe it was 1 or 2 races after that, I think we put together the road course win, we put together the dirt track win, and we put together Kentucky when I won. When we won there, 3-wide pass on like the last lap or one of the last restarts. And so that was the defining moment. Like when we put those, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know more better than I do as far as my memory is concerned. But didn't we won 3 races in a row? Correct?
I think
I believe you won 3 out of the last 4. I'm not sure about 3 in a row, but I'll check that really quick.
Well, it was at least, I swear it was at least 2 in a row. But
I'm sorry, Kamikaze is a super fan. What'd you say? You know this.
It's like 4 out of the last 6, I want to say. There was a good stretch there where what happened is that there'd be a late caution and then you just stay out and there'd be one lap left and then you'd win. I really like that. Every time that happened, good stuff.
Yeah, so that was the first or second race of that whole race stretch was when I felt we were separating ourselves, and that if we just remained consistent, we were gonna win the championship. Now, obviously, we went to Kansas, blew a tire, and hit the wall, and had our worst finish of the whole season. But you're going to have 1 or 2 of them in a year, no matter what.
So, you talked about, the ARCA championship being the highest of highs. Now, obviously, the lowest of lows was your frightening crash in 2015 at Las Vegas, which is where I'm from. Also, like, thankfully I wasn't at that race to see that in person, but I remember just watching that on TV, and I was just like so frightened by the impact of it. Kind of talk about what that was like, and also talk about your whole entire recovery process.
Yeah, it was a scary moment for myself, family, and the people that were watching back at home, I mean, my phone blew up even though I didn't have it. Just all the people that were sort of impacted by that. It really makes you think twice when people have accidents or anything like that, and especially when it's on live TV and somebody isn't at the racetrack to make sure you're okay. It was scary, but kind of going back to your question, I learned a lot of lessons, I think, about competition, about life. I mean, I'm not trying to get too touchy-feely with you, but when first of all you're able to recover from something like that and also get back to doing what you love, you have a different perspective. And I don't care whether you never win a race again after a scary moment like that, where you hurt yourself, you break some bones, and you're not sure if you're ever going to be able to compete before. But just getting back on the racetrack, I think, actually last year was my first time back to Vegas since the crash in a truck, and we finished eighth with On Point Motorsports. A lot of people ask me, hey, aren't you scared about going back? But I think I had faced my demons, I guess, at the racetrack when it happened in 2015, because I wasn't sure if I was ever going to be able to get back there. So just having the possibility at sort of conquering that again, I wanted to jump on that opportunity and just get back on the track. And I don't know if any of you have ever been around horses. They say if you get kicked off by a horse, the worst thing you can do is to not get back on. And a lot of it's mental, right? So for me, I'm always thinking about like how to approach racing from a mental standpoint, and you got to have the car right, you got to be mentally prepared, and you got to know what you're getting into before the race has even started. But from that standpoint, I feel like I just learned a lot about perseverance and not giving up. So I hate to sound
you're good, man.
What do you call it? Stereotypical, in a sense that everybody tells a story about when you have something bad happen in your life, how it kind of changes you. Mm-hmm. It didn't. I still feel it. I wake up in the morning and I can tell that I was in a 160 mile an hour crash into a concrete wall.
Even still today?
Even still today. But
wow.
It didn't have a safer barrier, and I'll tell you there is a difference between hitting a safer barrier wall and a non-safer barrier wall. Because in 2016, I went to Daytona. That was my second race back with VKR, and we led the most laps, I think, in that race. And we ended up getting involved in a crash in turn 3, and I, hit the wall. It was a safer barrier wall. First thing, I'm like, oh, not again, right? You can feel you're about ready to hit the wall, and it literally felt like not even a fraction of what it felt like to hit a concrete wall. So I don't envy any of those guys that raced from like 1950 to when did they come up with the safer barriers? From
like 2003, something like that.
Yeah, from then to 2003. Those guys, I'm telling you, those guys took some serious hits. And they walked away. I know they still feel it. I talked to a lot of drivers that certainly have some side effects from their racing back in the 90s and 80s and whatnot. But it's still long answer to your question. But it's changed me, and it's continued to sort of change me, and it's definitely impacted on how I view racing and how I view whatever else, whether it's 5, 10, 20 years from now, whatever else I do. For me, it's all about just putting everything in perspective, because you never know when your last at-bat's going to be.
Definitely good stuff. Austin, before we go, let's maybe do some fun questions. What's some things that people may not know about you that, you'd like people to know? Like, what's something unique about you?
Well, it's kind of a cool question. There's nothing cool about me.
You fit right in with this podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome in. Fifth toast, everybody.
You know what? I'm a boring person just like the rest of humanity. And no, but if we have to pick something corny, I guess you could say that I was looking through the TV programming last night or a couple nights ago. I was bored, and guess what shows up on my Dish Network packages? Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan. So I'm addicted to the old Star Trek, the Captain Kirk, Spock type Star Trek. I don't know if you guys have ever watched that, but
more of a
there's few
Trekkie.
people I know. There's another driver, I won't name him, but he's a Trekkie too. So I'm not sure if I'm in like lonely company or not.
Can you please name him? Please say who it is.
Tyler Reddick.
Oh, nice.
I can see that.
I figures, yeah.
So, audience, just so you know, with the combination of Austin, Tyler, and of course Ryan Blaney's a big Star Wars fan, it's okay to be a little on the geeky side. It's okay, guys.
Sci-fi and NASCAR mix, apparently.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the minority. I haven't watched many of the Star Wars movies, so.
Oh, there's only 4 good ones. You can avoid the ones they've made in the past 10 years. Honestly, the J.J. Abrams ones are like Star Trek movies are basically just Star Wars light at this point. Like they're the exact same movies when you look at them. So if you've seen the last 2 or 3 that Abrams and them have made, that's basically you're just watching Star Wars movies there.
Yeah,
and action.
Kind of to expand on that. If you look back at the older Star Trek movies, like the motion picture, I think they made them back in the 90s or 80s, 90s. So the J.J. Abrams movies, those are basically just copies of the Star Trek Wrath of Khan when Spock dies. And then I think the next movie, I don't know what the next movie is, but it is a copy. It's like basically a kind of it's like an alternate universe type thing where they just redo the movie.
So I got to get this question in before you go. You said you were trying to make some things happen in the Cup Series this year. Can you tell us which team, or no? It's too early to say anything.
Well, I'll tell you the team, but there was some talk about it, but it fell through the cracks because he didn't mention my whole name. The team owner was, I believe it was at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and somebody was talking to him about one of his Cup teams. Corey LaJoie's driving for him, and it's Archie St. Hilaire was interviewed, and he's like, yeah, I'm looking at we're looking at getting Austin and somebody else in some part-time races, but he didn't mention my last name, and I read the article when it came out. I'm like, this is probably a good thing, kind of keep it on the down low. But I'm working with him to try to put some stuff together, and we'll see what happens.
Okay,
that's really exciting.
Awesome.
Be on the lookout, guys. We may see Austin Theriault somewhere on a Cup Series.
The next time, though, we can expect to see you in a truck, right? Will be Martinsville. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Martinsville next Saturday.
All right. Yeah, that'll be awesome.
I think it's going to be a pretty stacked field. A lot of trucks. Actually, one of the downsides for us is, since we're not a full-time team, we can't go back to points. So we're qualified, or we're looking at top 27. I think top 27 gets you locked into the Truck Series races now if you don't have any provisionals to go back on. So that's what got us by one spot at Daytona. Kind of a frustrating deal, but because we were faster than a lot of the people that got provisionals. But at the end of the day, you can't. The system is the system, and I would want to get a provisional. Put it that way. If I was in that position and I deserved a provisional, I would want to get it. So I can understand where we just weren't in that spot. So we had to take what came to us.
Yeah, Kamikaze was crushed. Like both his guys, yourself and what's the other guy's name? Kamikaze, Corbin
Forrester.
Forrester. Yeah, they didn't make the race.
We're the top 2 that didn't make the race. And I was at work and I was just watching qualifying over the counter. I'm just like, did he make it? Did he make it?
No.
Oh. And then I just had to do the rest of my 5-hour shift and be like, well, this is great.
It's a horrible feeling because whether you tell friends or tell family or people, hey, watch us race. We're going to race Friday night at Daytona. They turn it on. They're like, I didn't see you in the race.
Well, Martinsville is much more of a driver-focused track, I would say, than Daytona, so I'm sure you got a much better chance. A lot of people in the chat saying good luck, so that's kind of really cool. Looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, because we were third, I think, in the draft, the draft or the practice that we were drafting in at Daytona, and then we just didn't have the single car speed that it took to get in the race. But you're right, Martinsville's going to be. You got to have good equipment, but Martinsville's a little bit more in the driver's hands.
Well, on that note, heading into Martinsville, all I can say is hit the gas as hard as you can, brake often, and enjoy some hot dogs.
Well, I appreciate it. So how does Austin Theriault Racing buy a sponsorship on here? Are you selling any sponsorships? Well, you know, I may run into people that want to like get their company's name mentioned.
Hey, we're not sponsored by anybody.
So you don't want to commercialize the podcast?
We didn't say that.
No, we didn't say that. No, we didn't say that.
With that being said, the NASCAR Weekly Podcast is open to hear offers. You can reach out to any four of the hosts here,
or myself, and I'll just direct them to you guys.
Our channels have been individually sponsored before, but just not the podcast, though. That'd be pretty neat.
Awesome.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, I thank you guys for having me on, and obviously you guys you're gonna be on for like another hour and a half, so I won't keep you, but be sure to send me a message or whenever if we have to get back on. I'd love to do that.
Absolutely,
sure, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for being on,
Very
man.
good, Austin. Thank you for coming on.
Have a good one,
guys. Thanks.
Later.
Oh, in the chat, and it's Michael G. Cardipoli, I think is his name. Says I would kill to hear you guys doing a MeUndies advert.
Oh my gosh! I would love to do a MeUndies advertisement, but that's all I'll say.
We're not above any endorsements. Well, most.
I gotta be honest here, guys. That was like one of the best interviews we've ever done on the podcast. You know, that's easily top 3. I mean, one of the best guests we've ever had.
Yeah, he was really honest, and that was really cool to hear him talk about a lot of his future plans, but also kind of like his journey to where he is now. Because we all know it's a very competitive. Like I was about to say, NASCAR is competitive, like no shit, but like, it's the lower series, like getting up through there with all different series, so many people vying for very few rides. Like it's rough out there, and he's ARCA Series champion. Sounds like he might have some good news coming his way for the Cup Series on the Cup Series side. So that's really cool to hear him talk about that.
Kamikaze was so starstruck, he couldn't speak. He couldn't speak the whole time. You know?
I was just left speechless the entire time. Couldn't even think of a single word besides "Wow." Am I really good?
Got added to Tulsi's cabinet yesterday and got to meet Austin Theriault today. It's been a great few days, man.
Super chat. Right now. Super chat alert. Got a super chat.
I didn't hear the Danny B notification. What happened?
Oh yeah, that's right.
hopefully that is gone now. Okay, this is from our good friend, the Reverend Rasheem Stewart. Good always hear from you, Reverend. What is your greatest passion in your life? Well, Reverend, you might appreciate this. You might appreciate this. I'm not afraid to admit, I'm a man of God, go to church every Sunday. But also, I'm very passionate about, of course, my YouTube channel, my business that I do, my work, but also love bass fishing. So I mean, that's kind of like when I was hearing Austin talk about everything he does for racing and everything. I'm kind of the same on the fishing. I can relate to him working up into the ranks of NASCAR, because for a while I was kind of chasing a dream in bass fishing. Didn't work out, and it's one of those things you got to work hard to have the right people behind you in that sport too. But if nothing else, I'm always passionate about Danny B Talk. So
there you go. You clicked on yourself last minute.
Yeah, I saw the chat. They're just staring at me the whole time, and I was like, "Oh God, I hope I didn't do anything." Yeah,
that's when you gotta start dancing and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say my greatest passion in life right now is honestly just my YouTube channel at this point in my life, and also
you guys.
Just school.
I love you guys.
I guess you could throw this podcast in with that in the mix as well. So that's what I got going on.
So for me, it's definitely it's got to be this, and but also probably running too. I've been I've gotten back into it. I had to take a little while off, but yeah, that's probably for me is pretty high up there.
Yeah, that was my passion in high school, was track for sure.
Yeah, simply put, I love doing YouTube stuff these days. It like every year continues to be more and more important to me in my life. So yeah, love doing it. Love talking racing, and it's super cool that we get the chance now to talk to guys within the sport like Austin Theriault and so a lot of the other guests we've had this year. It's really awesome. So it's cool
And
to see
also-
going places.
And Kamikaze's passion is Austin, who was just on.
I was going to say my passion is yelling, but that works too.
Yeah.
Really quick, while we have a bit of a pause. So next week is our 50th episode.
Oh,
Awesome. I mean, just never in a million years a year ago to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna
Amazing.
do I'm a million. Yeah, never would I think, oh, I'll do 46 more of these in the next year. But we're not gonna say who it is yet. We'll wait till the end of the show. But we got a pretty big guest coming on, and it's gonna be fun.
And it's
And,
on my channel, correct? Or like?
yes.
Oh, okay. It's official.
Yes.
It's good.
It
It
will
was
be on.
scheduled on there.
It will be
Yeah,
on Black Flags Matters channel for the first time, like this year.
Yeah. No, guys. I know what you're thinking. Why, like guys, the internet's been all crappy where I live and stuff. But don't worry, I have a cable that's hooked up to this laptop. It's working pretty good. It's all good. The Ethernet cable's working.
Someone asked, "Is Timmy Hill coming on?" Sorry.
We got
No,
another,
Super chat for you, Danny.
we got another super chat from the other White Castle. Appreciate it. Danny B, loving the Lord. Praise Jesus. Hallelujah. Amen.
Yes.
Amazing episode. This episode has been blessed.
Yes.
So where should we start tonight? Should we talk about ISM, I guess?
Ism. Let's talk about ism.
Isn't it?
Ism. Okay. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
right now.
I'll
Sorry.
go first. Why not? The race at ISM. I'll just get the ratings out of the way. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Kyle Busch closer to 200. So he's closer to 200.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later, though. But I'd say the race was fairly decent. I mean, the restarts were off the chain, though. They were amazing. We saw 4 wide. I think even at one point, was it like 5 wide on the?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was absolutely insane, and we almost saw a few wrecks. What's funny is in the beginning of the race, Eric Jones blew a tire, and that was my stepdad said, "Oh, he's gonna win." He said that on Saturday, and he's the first one out. You also saw some problems with Brad Keselowski. He also cut a tire. There was a lot of tire problems during the race. I want to say 2-3 tire blowouts. I'd say. I think, or no, didn't Alex?
It was enough that I was expecting Tony Stewart to have something to say about it after the race.
Yeah, right. And then, unfortunately, Alex Bowman ran into some problems there, and you also saw some cars fade to the back. William Byron, who was my pick to win. I thought he was going to do it. I thought he was going to get it done. But yeah, that's how crazy I was last week. But don't worry, I'm in my right mind this week, though. But unfortunately, he started in the top 10, but unfortunately fell back. And you also saw some other guys showing their stuff. For example, Ryan Blaney was looking really fast. Was really fast all weekend, won the pole, and was even battling. He was even staying up there with Kyle Busch towards the end there on just 2 tires. So that was pretty cool. And also Truex getting a top 3 finish. Kevin Harvick, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, that team, they're falling off, man." Because like that's his bread and butter, bread and butter right there. Ism is basically it. He was still able to get a top 10 finish. So, but yeah, that was basically my view of the race. And congrats to Kyle Busch. And also 4 different winners in the first 4 races. Last year it was just 2. So
that's fun. I want to give a shout out to Lucky Louie though in the chat. He's right. My call for Kevin Harvick struggling this weekend. I told you guys he would run 8th to 10th in this race. You guys said what? He's won here 9 times. He finished 9th. So I nailed that prediction.
9.
Yes.
9.
I also got my win pick right as well with Kyle Busch, but that's not as exciting, so I won't talk about that. As far as ISM goes, on my Groovy gauge this weekend, I gave it a 75, so I guess I'll translate that to a 7.5 out of 10 for the race. It was nice to go to a track where the aero package wasn't the top hot topic of conversation, and yet we still got the really fun restarts that the current ISM configuration allows. So that was a lot of fun. That was a great thing to see. In general, I thought the race was interesting. You didn't have any like big wrecks, but you had a bunch of little spins for varying tire issues. That's what made it really interesting. Like Eric Jones, they straight up had a loose wheel, is what it sounded like, and that just forced a vibration that cut a tire. Chase Elliott as well sounded like he had a loose wheel, whereas like Alex Bowman, it sounded like he actually had a cut tire, which was kind of interesting. So it felt like it was different tire issues, which I thought was interesting. I remember at the beginning of the week, though, Goodyear put out a statement saying, hey, we highly recommend you use these pressures. And I guess, all teams are always going to push the issue. So tire issues weren't entirely unexpected. But overall, it was a good race. It was good to see Ryan Blaney run up near the front and almost have a shot at winning this, because the last few weeks we've seen how Penske's been really good, but Blaney's noticeably been slightly lagging behind. And then he had like bad finishes at Atlanta, or I think it was Atlanta after he had a tire issue, whatever it was. Should have had a top 5. So it was good to see Ryan Blaney kind of be the like carry the flag for Penske this weekend and almost get a win. So it shows that whole team, that's the most complete team in NASCAR right now. And as far going back to Kevin Harvick, struggling, not leading a single lap at his best track. We went to Atlanta a couple weeks ago, what I think would say is probably his second best track. And also, what did he finish? Like 5th, which is fine, but not amazing. Stewart-Haas Racing was the best team in NASCAR this year. They've definitely taken a small step backwards. Like you had one car, I think, finished in the top 5 at ISM out of SHR. So that was kind of surprising to me.
Hearing you talk about this, Eric, it's really making me start to think, is Penske Racing, looking to be, are they stepping in as the new Stewart-Haas Racing? Because at the end of the year last year, of course, Joey Logano won 2 races, won a championship at the end. Brad Keselowski went on a run of winning 3 in a row. Of course, Blaney, it's different circumstance, but he got the win at the Roval. And then now we start off this season. Even the extension of Penske, Wood Brothers, Paul Menard did so well in the Clash, was running up front at Daytona.
It's true.
Then Brad won, Joey won, Blaney almost won. I mean, we could be in for a good year of Penske Racing this year.
For sure. No, I think last year, you're right. That's a good point that, with Keselowski, those 3 in a row, they had 6 wins in the last 12 races, I guess, if we do the math, last season.
Yeah, 6. Yeah, okay, because Brad won it the first.
Or then 5 wins, I should say.
Yeah, he won 2 in a row at the beginning of the playoffs, and then, no, 2 in a row before the playoffs. Yeah, okay, so the last 12.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So yeah, you're right.
I'd say Penske Racing is turning into Hendrick Motorsports circa 2006, 2007, where every single car in the entire organization is getting wins. It's pretty.
I'm not really going to call it like that, but I mean they're running on all cylinders right now. They're really they're making me think of what Stewart-Haas was last year.
I mean, all of them won last year, though. I mean, that's very rare. It's rare for a team to get all of their cars wins. Well, unless you're Stewart-Haas, but you got to be having a good. I don't know. You have to be packing there, and that's
07 Hendrick. No, I don't want. Okay, I think I've done I want to preface this. I've done a very good job of not being a pessimist in this season. So let's just get that out of the way right now, so you can't accuse me of that. Because I kind of I disagree with the higher ratings. And I don't know. Maybe it was just I set my expectations a little too high or something. Maybe that was it. I honestly really didn't like the race that much, and it's not even like the finish is probably the best part aside from the restarts. It's not the finish that I was like not liking the race. It's just it's the same thing that ISM has always been. It was very spread out. It's difficult to pass unless you had an extremely better car. I mean, I don't think there's really any reason that Kyle Busch should have spent so long behind Ryan Blaney. Yeah. Kyle Busch was best driver, best car, and better tires, all that jazz. So truthfully, I'll give it a 4 out of 10. I don't think it's like a horrible race, but I think it's a little below average. I think that the general positivity the sport has right now, like I'm not going to rain on that parade because I like that. And I want that to keep going. But at the same time, I think that is sort of rose-colored glasses, I guess, when viewing some of these races. It was like, okay, like I think it's better than last year's race. But compared to any of the other races this year, it's probably the worst one by a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I do agree. At Phoenix, it's too hard to pass there. And so you didn't see, I think there was like a whole probably 40 lap run where I don't think the top 10 changed. And that is frustrating to see. The reason I still thought it was good is because there were enough restarts There was enough like little spins every 20, 30, 40 laps, except for the final stage. But you saw enough of those. You had enough restarts. It jumbled things up, and there was enough tire strategy that you could see some new faces at the front. Like Kyle Busch looked like he had to stay in control, but then after some restarts, pit stop strategies, like he still had to work for it, and so the finish was good too. So yeah, that's a fair point. I don't know. I guess it didn't weigh it down as heavily for me.
Yeah, I and the restarts for me were the saving grace. Like I think had it been like last week and there were no cautions at all, I don't think we would have seen a nearly as positively received race. And I hope it's me. I hope I'm the one that's like just the anomaly here. Because honestly, like I'm happy that everyone enjoyed it. And I think if someone enjoyed it, go right on ahead. It's just for me, it wasn't really my biggest cup of tea, I guess.
Well, I mean, you had a lot of reasons for why. Like some people on Twitter were just saying like, "Oh, Kyle Busch won, therefore it was a bad race."
No, I mean some of the best races in the last decade are races that Kyle Busch won. The Chicagoland race last year, the 2013 Auto Club race was probably one of the best overall races with one of the most amazing finishes, and Kyle Busch won that. I'm not a fan of Kyle Busch, but I will not let that affect how I view a race.
Good fan.
Kamikaze, what did you think of the race?
Well, I told myself to be on my best behavior while Austin was in the room, but now I'm allowed to unleash. But I really don't have anything to unleash on. I mean, everyone said pretty much what I was going to say.
Oh, boo.
So sorry, no exclusive rant for the weekly podcast on this occasion. But yeah, it was just a Phoenix race is what it was. It was saved by perfectly timed cautions. There was only one caution in this race that I don't think was perfectly timed, and that was Bowman's first incident with the wall, because that came right when the second stage was ending, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
Why is my computer turning off? Sorry. But yeah, what made it compelling, I'd say, is the fact that it was the fuel strategy end. I wasn't sure if everyone was going to make it or not, which was a nice change of pace. We don't get as many fuel mileage races in the stage racing era, so it was nice to see that. But if it weren't for the perfectly timed cautions that made the end of stages a little bit more interesting and had a whole bunch of really good restarts, I think that would just been a generic Phoenix race. It's definitely the best one that I've seen since the 2017 fall race, and probably that whole 5-year period between now and whatever year, 2014, I guess. It was probably better than the one that I got to actually go to, so there you go. Should have waited until this year, but what are you going to do?
So yeah, that's right. You've been to ISM. I know it was last fall, right? You were there for the November race?
Yep.
What's the, like, I know since they spent all that money on renovations, like, is it really nice over there? Is it a nice track to go visit?
I don't know what to compare it to because I've never been to another track, but it was really nice from what I saw. Obviously, a bunch of fresh stuff, but like the actual infield area, it was extremely expensive to get into, but still really nice. They had all sorts of fans. That was good. Oh, the fans were great. But
did you go?
But the garage access, the garage access you see in the practices when you see all the fans in the background, like you're right there. You can reach out and touch the toolboxes. And it's a really nice area to be in. It's all around a great facility, and like there's a whole bunch of most of the seats are shaded, but I was one of the lucky few that got a seat that wasn't shaded, so that was not good for my skin. But beyond that, I mean, I enjoyed myself.
You also slept in your car too. I'm like, that's dedication.
You're in a hotel room now, so
yeah, in the hotel room. See, I get a hotel now, but I don't even get to sleep in the beds. It's like, what is this?
I had a times have changed. When you went, did you get a chance to go look for a rattlesnake at Rattlesnake Hill?
I did not, unfortunately. I kind of just glued myself to the track. Every time I tried to go into town, someone would try to run me over. So just thought, you know what? Screw it. I'll just stay here. They got really expensive concessions, but still, it's concessions.
Convenient.
Yeah.
That was the fame trip too that you got to meet Mears and Ty Dillon, right?
Yeah. Yes. And this is my favorite part of the whole thing, is like not even meeting Casey, but the fact that I was just walking through the facility and just hanging out, just checking things out. And the guy comes over the intercom. He's like, be sure to be in the infield tomorrow because we're going to have people signing autographs. there's going to be I don't remember who all was there, but he just kind of offhand said Casey Mears, and I'm like, really? I had no idea. I did not go there expecting to meet Casey Mears, but like, I'm not mad that I did.
Yeah. All right.
Well, that's
How's it going, Cody? Cody's in the chat. So how's it going, man?
All right, Cody.
Hey, Cody. Hello, fellow YouTubers, is what he says.
All right.
I'd say we pretty much. Danny, would you give more of a analysis, I guess, of the race overall?
I mean, overall, it's about what I expected from a Phoenix race. The restarts were pretty fun to watch. Definitely surprised we didn't have more instances like what happened with Ryan Preece getting turned around.
Oh, bad.
But hey, I'm honestly surprised we didn't see more of that, and I'm kind of wondering, like, when we see this package being brought into more short tracks, are we going to see some intense, exciting restarts like that? I'm really looking forward to Bristol in April to get an idea of what that's going to look like.
Yeah. I learned that Ryan Preece has a lot of fans all of a sudden. So don't ever talk bad about him. Don't ever say nothing or bad about him.
He's a fan, right? He's got the New England fan base because he grew up racing with Logano.
He's got all the Barstool fans.
I'll say this. I like Ryan Preece. He really surprised me what he did in such a short amount of opportunities over Joe Gibbs. So definitely there's a lot of raw talent there.
Yeah, I like Preece. Just I found
same.
that funny. And
appreciate the dollar donation there, Super Squad. Hope you're doing well.
So do we want to talk about? I guess I don't know. It's not my show, but I want
What's next on the agenda?
Do we want to talk about the TV ratings since we've all kind of said, "Oh, it was an okay race." TV ratings seem to say it was a pretty darn good race. Well, I don't know. TV ratings don't mean it's a good race, but TV ratings
better than last year.
Better than last year. That's what they're saying. Yeah.
Well,
ratings are up 4%. Compared to last year's race.
4% in ratings from a 2.8 to a 2.9, and then I didn't see what last year's was in viewership, but now it's a 4.8 million viewers, which is up 5%, and it's the first time since 2016 that there has been 2 consecutive races with gains in TV ratings. And while that might sound like scraping the bottom of the barrel for good stuff, at this point, with the way the last 2 years have gone, that is great.
Yeah, NASCAR is undefeated so far this season in terms of viewership and ratings. I said at the beginning of the year, if a race either flatlines or increases even by 1%, it's a victory. So NASCAR is 4-0.
And I forgot what his name is, but there was this reporter. He works for Fox Sports. He was just stirring the pot with the TV ratings. He goes, "Oh, bet you the NBA fans are going to be really mad this weekend to find out NASCAR beat them for the 4th straight weekend."
Yeah, 4 straight weekends. That's actually a good point. 4 straight weekends where NASCAR has been the highest rated thing of the weekend. Beat NBA Sunday a couple times. It beat Duke versus North Carolina on ESPN. Like
they were so salty. It was amazing. It was the most salty I've seen stick and ball sports fans since the 2015 finale.
I want to hear you guys.
What did they say? Like in the replies?
It's the same stuff about rednecks going in circles. All this
and NASCAR's not a sport.
And I saw one of them. I was like, "Wow, that's original," because it's like, "Oh, I guess there were more cousins at this year's reunion." And I'm like, I'm like, "Hey, at least you were a little creative with that one."
Yeah.
Do you realize how many times I probably roll my eyes a week when I read, "Oh, NASCAR is not a sport," or as I'm also a wrestling fan, I'm like, "Wrestling's fake." I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of know that."
I want to get you guys' opinion though. Like for the Las Vegas race, it jumped up 8% viewership, and I feel like that was obvious. It was the first race with the full version of the new Aero package. People were interested. First race of the West Coast swing, all that stuff. But for ISM, not a lot really seemed to change from last year to this year. So why do you guys think this race went up 4%?
I don't know. I think. Go ahead.
I just think it's the momentum that's already been had from the first 3 weeks. I think I've said this a few times, but I'll say it again. It's like we've got the first test down. Like ratings are up for the first little bit, but the ratings were up a good amount in 2015 to start the season until they went to FS1. For me, performing a few races up on FS1 is the next really big hurdle to hit. Because so far it's been an upward trend, but once you hit that cable binge of the season, I guess you could say, it is when you really get tested just how many people are sticking around to watch, or how many people are just like, oh this is on, or cable cutters are watching. So that's the one that I'm looking at. If Martinsville is up 3 to 8%, then I'll start believing a ton more, and then you just look for the next the final hurdle would be then the NBCSN and NBC. So if FS1's up, then I think there's a legit case to be made that NASCAR is going on an upward trend, at least in 2019. But for now, I think it's just sort of the ebb and flow of TV ratings.
Yeah, my suggestion was the idea that honestly the fight between Daniel Suarez and Michael McDowell on Friday and the hype that generated could have boosted some of the ratings for Sunday. Cody H makes a good point in the chat, actually. This is technically the second race with this new configuration, but last spring they did not have the new configuration at ISM. Maybe that could have had a factor as well. That's a good point.
I don't know. I feel like some fans are finally finding drivers to root for. When Junior left and stuff, all of his fans either went to other drivers or they just left the sport entirely. So maybe I feel like maybe some of those fans who left are like maybe giving it a second chance, and they're like, oh, Chase Elliott's driving full time, like, I'll root for him, or Kyle Busch is winning. He's about to hit 200 wins. I should start rooting for him, or Truex champion a couple years ago. Maybe I should start rooting for him. I don't know. I don't know. I was just thinking about that. But Eric brought up a good point. The fight probably more than likely was the reason for the ratings increase, though.
Well, thank you. No, I'm just I thought Danny was going to say something a second ago.
I was just going to say, it's funny seeing that fight. it definitely gets a lot of mainstream attention on it. Definitely, you could say, Joey Logano wins race, good for him. It's like a fight breaks out in a NASCAR race. Oh my gosh!
Who said you had to wait to the Olympics to see U.S. versus Mexico? Come on.
Stupid.
What's so funny about this is that and actually literally a couple days later, the NASCAR and WWE released a video of next week's pace car driver, Rey Mysterio, hanging out with Daniel Suarez. And it's like,
perfect timing.
That's so perfect right there.
It's all set up by the globalists.
Yeah, I was talking with my little brother on FaceTime today, and he was like, so was there a fight like in NASCAR last week? And I was like, yeah. Like, how do you know? Like, because he doesn't care about sports at all. He was like, because my roommate was talking about it. He said it was trending on Twitter on Friday, and I was like, wow. Like, yeah. I saw it on Bleacher Reports. I think even ESPN tweeted out something about it, and also Barstool Sports, not Storts, Sports tweeted a little something about it. So yeah, like, I don't know, just. It's cool in the short term, but obviously long term, it's not going to get like, oh, there was a fight. Maybe I'm going to start watching all 36 races. Like, that's not going to happen. But it's good to see NASCAR trending, worldwide and something again.
Gotta have something.
Yeah. I didn't see it live, so like I caught it. I went on Twitter and I'm like, why is Daniel Suarez trending? Oh, what a welcome. It's like a surprise for sure, but a welcome one at that.
I was watching it live, and I kind of just oftentimes I'm like, I guess I'll watch qualifying. I sit down in front of it, and I just was kind of like, look at my phone. I hear like Mike Joy come back from commercial, and he's like loudly talking like Daniel Suarez was upset with Mike McDowell. I'm like, what's going on? And I was just like, I was rolling out of my couch. I should have filmed it. Afterwards, I was like, damn, this is why I need a camera on, because I was like literally tumbling on the ground laughing at what I was saying. It was a little much.
Michael McDowell was like acting crazy though. He started pushing Suarez, and I was like, here we go. And then Suarez just freaking
Suarez definitively won that fight.
Yeah, he won the fight. He's not winning the damn war though. That's for sure, because he's outside of the playoffs, but
He'll beat McDowell.
I just want somebody to make, like, see if Carnation can make a meme with the song Walk, and every time they say respect in the song, have Suarez saying it.
I feel like something that hasn't been talked about enough is the fact that the guy who broke it up and like pinned Suarez against the hood of the car awkwardly was his former crew chief, Drew Blickensderfer.
Yeah.
Or not his former crew chief, but it was a crew chief, not a crew member.
Former crew chief.
Had him by, looked like he had him by the throat too. I mean,
it's interesting when you see crew chiefs get in the middle of it though, because you're used to seeing pit crew members, but when it's a crew chief, they're just kind of.
And then McDowell tried undressing him, like pulling his shoe, like that's gonna do something. I'm like, come on, bro, what are you doing?
You know what's the funniest part is that the next day for driver introductions, they had the ride together.
Well, I just loved how Fox was. They were pushing it. They were pushing it really hard. Like, oh, these two got in a fight. Now they're riding. Yeah, it's a rivalry for what? Like 20th? Like I don't care.
Like Petty and Pearson.
Yeah.
Oh, and we're halfway through the race, and oh my gosh, did Michael McDowell just sent Daniel Suarez into the wall for 20 seconds? I don't know why.
For 20 seconds. Wow. Oh, they're beating him. They're bumping for 25th right now. Oh my God. Like, I know. I just feel like NASCAR media has just they've been reaching for so many, like, for stories for a minute there.
They're like the clown from It, the way they reach.
No.
I mean, did you guys see the thing on NASCAR.com? I think Stenhouse had tweeted it out.
Yes.
Yeah, like
Stenhouse
he tweeted
pointed
it out.
And yeah, because Stenhouse put it out, he said he literally said absolutely reaching, and then Chase Elliott was like the most sarcastic tweet ever. It's like, yeah, Dennis wrecked me again.
Yeah, like what it said was Chase Elliott spun near Denny Hamlin. Like what?
What does that matter? He spun out because of a bad tire. Did you not see the tire look like it was about to fly off the car?
Yeah. I mean, talking about getting a reach there. Oh my gosh.
We love NASCAR media, especially the ones that come on our podcast.
Yeah, especially
only the ones that come on our podcast.
Yeah, only the ones that come on our
podcast.
Absolutely. We love you all.
How about Kyle Busch winning? I want to hear. I know we all probably have some interesting takes on this. So Kyle Busch winning his 200th career, or not 200. I'm sorry, 199th. I'm sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I'm sorry. I'm from the future. I'm from 5 days from now. Sorry about that. Winning his 199th career win in all of NASCAR, but his 52nd Cup Series win. You want to talk about NASCAR media reaching? This is where I'll give him some. I'll talk some smack here. The amount of articles I've read or seen headlines, comparing him directly to Richard Petty, it's a little obnoxious at this point. You talk about it a little bit, but what do you guys think of the Richard Petty Kyle Busch comparisons?
Can't. I mean, I made this in a video about greatest of all time. You can't compare different eras to each other. I mean, and if you just want to look at just direct numbers, I mean, yeah, we can talk about all put together, but if you just look at series by series, if Petty only did Cup, whatever, but then you have to add in the Sportsman different divisions that Petty did, and
comparable series. I think he won like 3 races.
Dick Trickle won like 400 something races, so let's add him in. He won a bunch of short tracks. It's like once you start getting to small technicalities like that, it gets to that really bad reaching. Like don't get me wrong, what he's done, especially when I look at Cup, is incredible for someone who's 33 years old. But to say that, the whole thing of like, oh yeah, he's racing against Petty raced against inferior competition, like that guy Cale Yarborough and Pearson and Bobby Allison and Junior Johnson and Lee Petty, and oh wait, it's almost like there's different eras. That's my take. Like I get so irked by just the reaching that, it's incomparable and both are impressive. Like now can Twitter just go and die in a fire?
I mean, they're both
on that note. I just want to say we did have another super chat come in, so I want to thank John Smith for the $2. Which driver would you choose for a fight? That's a very interesting question.
Newman. I'm choosing Newman.
Norm Benning.
Okay, as bad as this might sound, just because I'm a weakling, come on, Rick Obrew. I'll take you.
So I think it's who you would have as your fight, like someone to fight with.
As your fighter. Or wait. What was the question?
Which driver would you choose for a fight? So I guess that you're fighting them.
Oh, so I'm fighting them.
I'm fighting?
Oh hell no! I'm not picking Newman. No.
He'd have you, boy.
Go back. No, go back.
He'd eat you like a sandwich.
Wasn't it Dale Jr. that said that like some drivers have punchable faces, like Kyle Busch? Like, didn't he say that at one point a few years ago? I thought he said that on his podcast. Like, I don't know who I'd want. Like, I can't picking between Kyle Busch and Joey Logano would be tough.
I don't want to fight anybody.
It depends. It depends. If it's somebody on my side, I still want Norm Benning.
Darren,
Yeah, if
Darren,
it's on my side, I'd pick Newman, but to fight, I'm not sure.
Darren, you're gonna fight Bubba.
Oh God, yeah, I know. At this point, oh yeah, it's like I'm gonna fight him with his shirt.
I mean, after watching Suarez this week, if it's someone you want to fight, it'd probably be McDowell because he's proved pretty easy to take down by someone even smaller than him. So.
That's true.
I mean, he's a big guy though. I mean, that's a big dude.
He was weighed down by that helmet. It made him top heavy. Made it easy to throw on the ground.
I mean, Suarez is a pretty strong guy. I mean, even Logano said, like, yeah, he's the new Carl Edwards in terms of, like, fitness. Not driving ability, but fitness. Yeah.
Who you got, Kamikaze?
I'd fight, I don't know, Mike Harmon.
That's a good one.
I want to say that. I want to say that.
Harmon. Yeah, I'll take it.
That's funny. That's a funny
He's
question.
actually really short. I saw him in Phoenix, but I wasn't sure it was him because he was so short.
Oh, he is.
He represented the Lollipop Guild.
Well, no, he's like Mike Harmon is literally those Mii characters on the Wii. It's like if you make them really short and really fat, that's him. That's literally him. Like,
Mike,
if you see him in person, you'll see.
Oh man.
Let's get back on subject. That was fun.
Well, what subject are we actually on?
Yeah, I forgot.
I think
the 200 wins. The 200 wins. Okay, I'll go next. I feel like, I mean, I'm with Jared on this one. I mean, you can't compare the two. I mean, they're two totally different beasts in their own right. You know what I mean? Like, Petty, driving in the basically from, the late 50s all the way to the early 90s. I mean, 200 wins, all in Cup, and also beating drivers from the likes of David Pearson, Carol Yarbrough, Dale Earnhardt, DW. I mean, there's just so many going through my head right now. I mean, those are some of the names that come up, and also Kyle Busch. I mean, I can understand the fans saying like, well, Kyle Busch is driving in a much more competitive time. I mean, because I do see their points though. I mean, back in Petty's days, he would win races by like 2-3 laps maybe, around there. Kyle Busch is literally winning every one of his races by seconds nowadays. But again, they're not comparable. And I mean, I'm probably in the minority here when I say, what I think he's doing is pretty legendary. I mean, when he broke the Truck Series record, I was like, that's pretty legendary though. I mean, I know he's a Cup driver, but you still gotta, you have to run the whole race. I mean, stuff doesn't always fall your way in terms of pit strategy, or you might get into a wreck and stuff like that. I mean, I still think that's pretty impressive. And then he's also the Xfinity's all-time leader in terms of wins. And also he said once he hits 100 wins in Xfinity, he's retiring. And then when you throw his Cup Series,
hallelujah.
Wait, hold on, say it again.
So hallelujah.
Yeah, I know. He's probably just trolling us. He's never going to retire in Xfinity. Probably just trolling us.
I mean,
racing as a skeleton.
Yeah, I'm just saying the man loves the race because there's April 14th. There's a big late model race here at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. He's coming to race in it. So
yeah, I mean, I just find it odd that people they're literally criticizing Busch because he wants to race, not because he's had any off the track problems, like some other athletes have had in other sports in the past, like
I think what's
problems, like it's just because he wants to race. Like
what sets him apart is what he's done in those series, especially like the Hornaday one right there. That immediately there's no other Cup driver who really is set apart to be like, oh yeah, so they crashed somebody who was in the championship hunt. And you look back, I think Eric, did you tweet about it today? Like
yeah.
half of like they did the one of the
said they would want him fired after that.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, for a while there I was one of them too, because what he did was, one, stupid, and two, dangerous.
Yeah.
Very unprofessional and very dangerous.
My biggest gripe with all this, whether it's criticizing Bush or Petty, is if you and I say this about football too, and about really any sport, if you have to diminish one feat of greatness to make your argument look better, like for instance with Petty, oh, he didn't race against good people, he had better equipment, it really wasn't him as a driver. It's like, so if you have to diminish that legend to make somebody else look better, your argument is not good. Your argument is subpar, and that's what most of the people are saying. Like either or, and their arguments are terrible. Like,
I mean, that's basically the whole LeBron versus MJ arguments, like all the time. Like one side's diminishing the other. Like that's literally all they talk about. But I mean, I guess to end it, to end my opinion on this. Kyle Busch, he's racing? He's racing next weekend in Xfinity, right?
So,
okay,
yeah.
He's going to get 200 wins. So, I mean, it's a pretty historic feat. But like I said in the beginning, they're two totally different beasts entirely. I don't feel like they're very comparable. The only thing that is comparable is that they both have they both have 200 wins. That's literally it.
But it's just in the umbrella of NASCAR.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think I said a few weeks ago about the whole comparing Cup driver stats only, because when we were talking about like, is he in the top 10 of all time? I specifically look at Cup because that's the only one that you can compare with wins, top 5s, top 10, stuff like that. Because like I said, like if we're really gonna go in deep on this, well, how about all these people that won in the lower divisions at local short tracks that have won hundreds of races, so I
But we're going to go that far, though? I mean, we're not talking about Kyle Busch's short.
I mean, we're going to start talking about ARCA wins.
We're talking about NASCAR.
Yeah, but we're going to start talking about ARCA wins as soon as that gets added in with NASCAR. And people talk about K&N wins being something that defines somebody with Haley Deegan, so why can't we count those? It's like, it's just, how do I put this? I won't say that what he's done is bad by any means. Like I think the Xfinity ones are more impressive than the truck ones overall.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just like comparing by series. Like if you want to compare those lower two series, he's the best all time in those. But if you look at the people that raced and what time they raced and whatever, like you got to start doing all these little things to compare and different comparisons. I don't get me wrong. Like I said, he's the best ever in those two series, but I think when you're looking at this to base it off of all time, I don't think in any way it's comparable to any of other Cup guys that are up there.
Oh, and also I also want to say this. Frank Kimmel is actually the greatest NASCAR driver of all time. Then, because it's the ARCA champion.
If you think about it like that, it really is. And by the way, Alexander Karabatsis, thank you for the $1 donation.
Yeah, as far as to give my little spiel on Kyle Busch, I think the problem is the media has hyped this up as it's 200 wins. How does he compare to Richard Petty? Let's not talk about Richard Petty. Get Richard Petty's name out of it. Just say 200 wins. It's a nice even round number. It's a milestone. Same way you celebrate your 20th wedding anniversary, your 50th birthday, or whatever it is. Like it's a good, solid round number. 200. Leave it at that, because I agree basically with what you guys have said. You can't really compare Kyle Busch to Richard Petty just due to different eras. I think we've talked about on the show how there's a few different eras. You could argue Richard Petty was the best during his era, maybe Dale Earnhardt for a bad decade, Jeff Gordon for maybe a decade, Jimmy Johnson for a bad decade, and those are all pretty unique eras in a lot of ways, just in NASCAR in general. So that being said, I think there's a difference. This is kind of a new argument, but there is a difference between, I think, who's the best driver and who's the greatest. I think there's a difference between those two words, and you can compare this to other sports. Like LeBron James isn't necessarily considered, Michael Jordan is considered the best basketball player of all time. Wilt Chamberlain had a 100-point game. He's like the all-time leading scorer. Wilt Chamberlain statistically in championships is way better than Michael Jordan. But why is Michael Jordan considered greater? Just because of the era, because of the competition. If you want to actually compare who's best, probably Michael Jordan. But it's that kind of stuff. It varies by era. If we want to talk about who's best between Kyle Busch or Richard Petty, I think Kyle Busch is a better driver than Richard Petty. I think if you take a 33-year-old Richard Petty and put him in the same car as a 33-year-old Kyle Busch would win. I think.
agree.
But you got to compare eras. And Richard Petty, with what he was doing for the sport in its early days, 7 championships, 200 Cup wins, that's greatness. The same way Jimmy Johnson is not the best driver in NASCAR today, but if you ask me who's the best driver in NASCAR or who's the greatest driver in NASCAR right now, I would say Jimmy Johnson, because those 83 wins and 7 championships. Like, there's a legendary kind of a mythical status that you achieve when you get to those types of statistical numbers. And Kyle Busch isn't there yet when it comes to Richard Petty. You can't compare him to Richard Petty in terms of greatness. I still think he's top 10 right now in all-time NASCAR history with the potential to be top 5. But if we want to talk about talent, I mean, Austin Theriault said a minute ago, like he made a couple without even, we didn't even prompt him, but he mentioned Kyle Busch a couple times as somebody who just dominates whatever he's in. He said he has unnatural talent, like something nobody else has. Kyle Busch is top 3 best, most talented driver in NASCAR history, in my opinion. That doesn't mean he's the greatest, and that probably never means he will be the greatest. But I think there's a difference between those two words.
But here's a question: would you call him the better of the 2 Busch brothers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. I even say greater.
Yeah, I think his Cup wins alone, and what he's done with equipment at certain points.
Now, Kurt screwed himself by some of his on and off the track issues. He cost him a few prime years there where he could have been in top equipment, still winning races. Instead, he took a few years there where he was just kind of an afterthought. So that hurt him. But I
mean, Kyle Busch almost he was almost going the same route. After 2011, it seemed like, and he just got fired there. Mm-hmm. So Kamikaze, what do you think? I know you made a video.
Oh man, I made a video about this. I don't know if I need to say much more. What do you want me to say? Because I would like to interrupt whenever everyone's talking, but it feels like then the conversation's going really well, and I really don't have any more input. It just doesn't seem like.
Just say it. I mean,
I disagree.
Yeah.
With that being said, here's a plug that you can watch Kamikaze's video. What's it called?
Hang on a second. The truth about Kyle Busch's 200 wins.
Yes.
He's 52 going on 200 this week.
But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, that's my.
Yeah. Just go watch the video.
People just remember he has to be in a car to rant. He can't rant inside a hotel room.
Yeah, they're neighbors. Those walls are thin.
I don't know. I think I picked a pretty quiet corner, so.
All of a sudden, you just hear, "Open up!"
Oh, by the way, another shameless plug here. Kyle Busch, championship seasons. Kyle Busch 2009 is out tomorrow. That's his only Xfinity Series title I'm doing. So I don't know how some people are going to feel about that.
I will say this: the fact that he did it with that format where you had to be consistent, and it was based off consistency, to win the championship and still miss like 6 or 7 races. That's kind of impressive.
He ran them all.
No, he didn't. He didn't run all the races in 2009.
Yeah, he did.
No,
2008. No, 2008. He didn't run all.
2009. I do remember there were some races he didn't.
Okay, all right. I'll look it up. I just looked it up, but all right, let's look it up.
I'll look this up too now. What are we talking about next? What's our next topic?
I know that he ran off 35 races in 2009 because I remember from the screenshot from my video.
Yeah, no, 2009 he ran all of them. 2008 he missed 5. In 2008.
I swear, maybe it was. I know what it was. It was 2010. He didn't defend the title. That's what it was.
Yeah,
he did have. It's funny. He had more wins in the 2 years he didn't run the full schedule than he did the year he won the championship. Isn't that interesting?
He had a lot of second place finishes.
That top 5 points finish. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was impressive to me is that he still was close to winning in 2010 without running them all. That's what was.
Let me see.
Was awesome.
Let me see how many second place finishes he had. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He had 11 second place finishes, so he could have won. 20 races.
Jeez. Yikes.
Oh, wait, hold up. How many? Wait, hold on. 20, I don't know.
Are we holding on, or we keep going? I'm not sure.
Don't do the math. Can't do it yet.
Everyone, hold up! Math is happening.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. No, I forgot how many wins he had. Okay, he had 9 wins, and how many second place finishes did I just say he had?
11.
11. Okay, so 20. Okay.
Good math. Good job. Good job, team.
I was right.
But But if we are moving on, maybe about the Hall of Fame induction list.
Oh yeah.
And the controversy that's taking Twitter by storm. Shocker.
Oh, well, Twitter's mad about something? What? NASCAR Twitter's pissed?
This is why they're removing the like button.
Yeah, well, they haven't removed it yet. They're planning on it, but
That's what I'm saying. Why they're going to.
Speaking of the like button, YouTube still has it. Let's all lick the like button.
Yeah. While Twitter learns to code, lick the like button. Can't wait for Jack Dorsey to want to take me down on that one.
Jack Dorsey come on the podcast.
I love that.
It's like saying that anytime we mention anybody by name, I just like to throw that out there so somebody can clip it and send it to them.
I would honestly love to have Jack Dorsey on because I feel like anytime I said something, just sit there quietly in the corner.
Mr. Jack Dorsey, what's your opinion on Jimmy Johnson?
Hearing that, I just want to say it's kind of impressive. I've been noticing a lot more people that you didn't know that was like associated with NASCAR just kind of coming out and saying like, you know, they like NASCAR. They follow it. Like, who was the basketball player showed up in a Kyle Busch jacket this week?
Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, Russell
Westbrook.
And then
a
much bigger YouTuber, EMP Lemon. He had a big video. It's been going out in everyone's recommended videos about Dale Earnhardt, and I mean it's kind of cool, and maybe I know I put out a video of Dale Earnhardt 2 days ago, and like the first recommended video is EMP's video, so kind of cool.
We got to get that guy on the podcast. We got to get him on the podcast sometime.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. But before we do that, I got that. Oh my gosh, I got that list brought up of on NASCAR.com of the 2019 drivers who are eligible to make the Hall of Fame. You want me to just read them off?
Go ahead.
Just read the new ones that they added to the list, and
see, none of them switch that up. They just leave them all hodgepodge together.
Then never mind. You can read them all. Then that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to read the little one-sentence synopsis with it too, so some people know who they are?
Sure.
All right. I can't wait to mispronounce this stuff. Sam Ard, NASCAR Xfinity Series pioneer with two-time champion. So
well done.
There you go. Buddy Baker won 19 times in the NASCAR Cup Series, including the Daytona 500 and Southern 500. Mm-hmm. Pretty good. Mm-hmm. Neil Bonnet won 18 times in the NASCAR Cup Series, including consecutive Coca-Cola 600 wins.
Alabama game.
That was a lot tougher back then. Red Farmer, 3-time late model sportsman champion, 1956 modified champion. Crap. NASCAR.com is terrible.
It is. NASCAR.com, come on the podcast and defend yourself.
Yeah, defend why you think you could actually be better than the Coors website. Ray Fox, legendary engine builder, crew chief, and car owner. Hey, at least you can navigate the Core website.
Yeah.
You can't navigate this thing without a pop-up coming up. Harry Gant, winner of 18 NASCAR Cup Series races, including 2 Southern 500 victories. Joe
Mr.
Gibbs.
September.
I was just thinking Handsome Harry.
Yeah.
Joe Gibbs combined for 9 car owner championships in Cup and Xfinity Series. See, it's like they're subliminally combining the two with stats now. John Holman won 2 NASCAR Cup Series championships as a co-owner of Holman Moody Racing. Harry Hyde, 1970 Cup Series championship crew chief. Bobby Labonte won championship in both Cup Series and Xfinity Series. Herschel McGriff, 1986 NASCAR West Series champion. Ralph,
good name.
Yes, very good name. Herschel McGriff.
That's such a good
I
name.
never heard of him.
Me neither, but that's a great name.
McGriff the crime dog? Is that what you're saying?
Anyway, Ralph Moody won 2 NASCAR Cup Series championships as co-owner of Holman Moody Racing. It's like I've almost read that before. Marvin Panch won 17 times in the NASCAR Cup Series, including the 1961 Daytona 500. Jim Paschal, 23 of his 25 NASCAR Cup Series wins came on short tracks. Let's just say he was pretty dominant. Larry Phillips, only 5-time NASCAR Weekly Series national champion. Ricky Rudd won 23 times in NASCAR Cup Series, including the 97 Brickyard 400, back when the race actually mattered. Mike Stefanik won. I probably butchered that because I'm terrible at reading.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm probably not though. winner of the record-tying 9 NASCAR championships, best driver ever. No, Tony Stewart won 3 NASCAR Cup Series championships, 2-time Brickyard 400 winner. Voigt? VOGT. I'm just going to say Red Voigt because that sounds better. The first master mechanic of NASCAR, a founding member. I know there's some people that know this stuff that hate me now because of that. And then Waddell Wilson.
What?
Waddell. Waddle Wilson.
Waddle names.
NASCAR Cup Series championships as an engine builder. See, there's so many people that hate me now probably because of that stuff. Okay, and then
you can't say anything to Darian now, so.
Yeah.
Oh, sure I can. So the real controversy though comes from the 5 nominees, or one of the people who is not a nominee, of the Landmark Award, listed alphabetically as follows: Edsel Ford II, Ford Motor Company; Alvin Hawkins, NASCAR's first flagman, established NASCAR racing at Bowman Gray Stadium with Bill France Sr. I'm sure that David Land would love him. Mike Helton, the first non-France member, family member to be named NASCAR president. Dr. Joseph Mattioli, founder of Pocono. Ralph Seagraves formed groundbreaking Winston NASCAR partnership as an executive with R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. Person who is not listed this year, who was before. Jesus, I'm so tired. Guthrie. Janet Guthrie.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Well,
my bad.
Well, I feel like the founder of Pocono, that's an accomplishment. Like,
Wow, that is like, oh gosh, I don't know what to say about that one.
Dark.
You're proud of that? I thought Pocono Raceway.
When you say founder, does that mean that he like went out in the woods and he located it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't believe what he saw. He was hiking through the woods, like, wow, a triangle.
Wow, a boring ass racetrack. Man.
Based off of better racetracks.
Yeah, everyone says that NASCAR drivers do nothing but go around in circles, but this one's a triangle, guys. Mm-hmm. Check this out.
Look at this dude, triangle-looking racetrack.
But again, going back to the controversy, because we like controversy, Janet Guthrie was not included on the Landmark Award, and people are mad. People are really mad. But I don't want to give full anger, whatnot, about it right now, because I think NASCAR has to, and I think NASCAR sort of kind of have their hand forced to explain why. I don't know. I honestly don't know why they took her off, especially after the documentary was made about her. But at the same time, I would like to know a little more of the reasoning why before I make a full decision on what I think about it, just because.
It's very surprising because I know for a fact she's getting her own 30 for 30 this year, and she also had a documentary made by Fox Sports last year. So I mean, she's been in the public conscious for a little bit here as far as NASCAR fans go, and I don't know. It just seems like I figured they probably want to give her the award as soon as possible, but I don't know. That's confusing.
I saw Bromberg and Fryer going off about it, and I was like, I'm going to not be as knee-jerk as they're being right now, because it's like, it's a bad look. Don't get me wrong, it's a very bad look, but I want to know the reasoning behind it first, because I think then you can get the full picture, I guess you could say, of why, and you can get a better take on it. Because I feel like NASCAR media knee-jerk reacted to it.
See, I don't want to say this in a bad way, because obviously what she did was groundbreaking for any woman wanting to get into NASCAR. But I mean, it's not. Again, I don't want to say it's a bad way, but I mean, it's not like there was crazy top 10s coming out of her or anything like that. That makes really a Hall of Fame racing career. But I believe that what she did was very trailblazing for women wanting to get into the sport.
See, I don't think it was statistics for the most part. Why? Because, I mean, founding Pocono isn't really anything that's been put on the stat.
Proud of that? You're proud of that?
I'm not even going off that. I'm just saying what I think it is more just people who have, like, it's the Landmark Award. It's their landmarks in the sport. It's like you can pinpoint different points, different times in NASCAR history, and these people changed it for whatever reason. Now, I personally think that she should be on there over founding Pocono unless there's something very, how do I put it, trailblazing about that. But at the same time, I also have to think of if, from their point of view, if they're looking at it in a certain way, do you have the same people on every year until they win? And then at that point, does it diminish the value of the award to the person? Because, I mean, if Janet Guthrie's on there for 7 years and then it's like, oh, she finally won this year, it's like, well, does that kind of diminish it? Because it's like we just left her on there and until she won. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'd have to know a lot more about who was in charge of making the decision and their reasoning to it before I could just start saying that, oh, it's blatant sexism. So, because that's the thing that's going around right now, and I think that's something that NASCAR desperately wants off of its radar.
Well, let's pump the brakes on that. I mean, we don't even know fully why yet. You know, like people.
If there's no reason, I think it's bad. But if there's a reason that we can judge off of it, and not make such a knee-jerk reaction about it, then, because I'm pretty sure if you asked her, she probably wouldn't mind it as much as a lot of the people in the media have. Like,
yeah, I think that's my only thing. I don't know what this reward is. It's something where they can get a few big names in NASCAR together, give them a plaque or whatever it is, and that'll be that. I think. Sure, it would be a nice gesture for NASCAR to do that, but I do agree, I do think it would come across as, how do I want to phrase this? It would come across as pandering if they gave the award to Janet Guthrie just cause. They've given her, she's got that documentary with Fox. I didn't know about the ESPN thing, but the ESPN 30 for 30, Janet Guthrie has a lot of people's attention right now, and honestly, I think that attention that she's getting from those is far more effective and far more important to not just NASCAR, but also her, than whatever award this may be. The fact that she was the first woman I know in like the Daytona 500, but I don't remember if she was the first woman in NASCAR, but that's obviously something that deserves to be admired.
She was the first to lead a lap.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, I pulled up her stats earlier. She raced like 30 races. I don't think she ever got a top 5. I don't want to sit here and like just discredit what she did because she wasn't like a great driver or anything. It was a different era. It's fine. I'm not going to sit here and slam her for that, but I'm also not going to go out of my way to put her in the spotlight every chance we get. You get her that documentary, which is really cool. ESPN does a thing about her, but at some point, I mean, it just feels like you're just giving it to her just to give it to her. It does look like NASCAR. If NASCAR were to make that move and give her this award, it would just look like NASCAR kind of just caving and just saying, okay, we'll do this because it makes us look good. Which, at the end of the day, that's all this award really is, because nobody knows what this award is. Nobody cares.
Yeah,
so that's important. So that's why I agree with you guys. Like, there's no harm in them doing it for or giving it to her or whatever it is. And if they want to, if they give a reason as to why they didn't or why they didn't consider her or didn't put her as one of the finalists or whatever, then I'd be interested to hear it. But at first glance, it's an overreaction. I don't know. She blazed the trail for women in NASCAR, sure, but I just don't think this award matters in the grand scheme of things. I don't think this is something that people need to be so worried about. But
yeah, that's what I was saying. That's why I was so surprised by all the outrage. I'm like, wait, what's the award again? Like,
I wasn't surprised. I've been on Twitter for the last 5 years, and again, I know that a lot of people have been on longer, but I mean, between people getting offended by everything, the 2016 election, different sports stuff, different celebrity gossip, it doesn't surprise me anymore that Twitter blew up about it. I mean, I've noticed basically any other social media platform I've been on about with NASCAR, really it doesn't care, or it's a lukewarm response at most. It's like, oh, okay, they happen. I guess if this was something that was like put front and center every week, like this is a like the Walter Payton Man of the Year award in football. See, that award, it means something. And if you take somebody off who is more or less the most deserving or one of the most deserving with that, you have a legitimate argument. But when you have this award that it's basically like one of those TV award shows where you don't even realize it happened until someone says it's important. And it's like, this happened. Oh, okay. And I guess that it's like you were saying, it'd be pandering just to be like, so she's in the spotlight right now, and it looked good if we gave a woman an award.
Exactly.
So here you go. Yeah, because
Right.
she does not deserve that for the crap she had to go through, the way that drivers would race against her simply because she was a woman, the fact that she was in the garage in a time and driving in a time when women and children weren't even allowed in the garage area as fans. Like, what she's done should not be diminished, but at the same time, giving her an award simply for just simply for the PC brownie points, it makes her look. It does not help her look, and it really, in my opinion, would tarnish people's view of her.
I would actually agree. I think that would diminish a lot of people's opinion on what she'd done. I think if you ask any NASCAR fan their opinions on Janet Guthrie, it's mostly respect. I think the vast majority of that is great respect for what she did, and I think so far, I just feel like if you give someone an award like this, it's immediately going to lead to resentment. It's the same way like Danica Patrick was heralded as such a great symbol for NASCAR, but real fans knew she wasn't that good and knew she didn't really deserve it. So it was kind of like, okay, so there's a lot of people resent Danica. You don't want to see that happen to Janet Guthrie and other drivers in the sport. So that's my only. But you said it. If say Janet Guthrie wins this award, I would have never heard about it. I probably would have never heard about it if the award ceremony was in a month and they said, "Hey, Janet Guthrie wins this thing." I'd be like, I might have seen it on my Twitter feed once and not even read it. It's annoying that some people feel like this is needs to be a huge deal. That being said, I want to hear NASCAR. I'm tired of naming his name. I've done it enough.
Okay, Fryer.
I mean, I guess this may be something to consider. There are people who may be considered as if they could be nominated for NASCAR Hall of Fame, but may not get there because is Greg Biffle? Isn't he on the list for it? I mean, what if he doesn't actually get inducted? I mean,
he's not in the induction list from what I read off just a bit ago, but I definitely see. But if we're going to continue this trend of grading people from like each series, but my personal opinion and the thing that I really wish the Hall of Fame would do, instead of just putting someone in blanket wise, to be like sort of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I know it's sort of a farce with it anymore, because disco groups can even get into that, but what I think they should do is each individual driver or owner, crew chief, whoever it may be, if they were a competitor, they get in their respective series. So Kyle Busch would be inducted 3 times as a Cup driver, an Xfinity driver, a truck driver. That's how I see Greg Biffle. Greg Biffle for sure should be at least for the truck series, probably the Xfinity, and I'd say that he probably as a Cup driver, the way it's going, would make it. There's also more outrage too about Carl Edwards not being on there, but Neil Bonnet being added, which I think people need to calm themselves a bit on.
I think Carl Edwards, literally was just racing 2 or 3 years ago, and Greg Biffle was, and so was Tony Stewart and a few others. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like drivers who still feel like it wasn't too long ago they were racing, we shouldn't be too upset about right now.
Well, I don't even think he was the most important not to be mentioned. Former crew chief Kirk Shelberdine didn't make it.
Actually.
Yeah, that I didn't really. Because I thought it was like the NFL one where if you were nominated, you're just going to be on there until you get voted.
I guess not. I don't know why he's not on there. Weird. I mean, why he's not on there? I don't understand.
The NASCAR Hall of Fame is weird, and I'll be honest, I don't know about anyone else on this panel. I guess I can ask you 4 on it for your opinions, but for me, I honestly don't really care much for the Hall of Fame. Like, it's a cool thing to visit, but it's not something I'm going to go out of my way to watch stuff on TV about, or to start making these long-winded Twitter battles and stuff. It's just this thing that's cool to talk about.
Here's how I'm up the Hall of Fame. I got to go to it this year. No, it's not this year, but I got to go to it last year. It's
awesome.
Awesome,
Same.
yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty awesome.
Absolutely, it's awesome. So much history is inside of it. You get to just feel all the memories, and learn stuff you maybe didn't know. And I do love around Hall of Fame season, when you see these, the highlight videos, the historical documentaries, and and maybe that's the reason that I love it so much because I do similar videos on my YouTube channel. That I love, like just that aspect of. I love the history of NASCAR. Maybe that's just what. Maybe that's my biggest draw for it. Maybe
I know. I just view the NASCAR Hall of Fame basically as the just like the NBA's Hall of Fame. It's very inclusive, and like pretty much if you were good in NASCAR in any sort of series, then you're gonna make it in. Sort of like the Basketball Hall of Fame. If you were good in the NBA or overseas or in the WNBA, you're gonna make it in.
I'm sorry, it's like watching the MLS. I just can't take it.
Yeah. Oh, and also shout out to Carnation. He's about to hit 2K in a little bit.
Oh, Carnation, nice job, man.
Yeah, shout out to him. So we're nearing towards the end. I just noticed. Should we just get into picks, or is there any other news to discuss?
Really quick, I took a screenshot of it. I didn't go too in depth with it, but SMI, they did for like revenue for 2018. It said TV money represent 47% of the revenue last year total. Event-related items like merchandise and track rentals were about 30%. Ticket sales 17%, and other activities were 6%.
47% for team. That some of that money has to go to the teams. It has to go to the teams.
What I'm thinking though is whether you relocate it to the teams or with the new contract, whichever comes first. There's like when this contract ends, there are going to be some major changes because there's some tracks who I think that TV money is what's keeping them afloat.
47%, yeah.
So I guess what are your guys' takes on that? I must stay quiet for a minute. I gotta actually get something real quick.
Well, like I said, I feel like that money should be better distributed to the teams. Some of these teams, like they're even some of the top teams are still struggling to find sponsorship. I feel like if you better distribute that money to the teams, then obviously they're going to try and find sponsorship, but they have at least something to fall back on, and then if you do that, they can finally go ahead and find actual talented drivers and not freaking pay drivers to fill their seats and also to underperform in. So I feel like you got to better you have to spread out the money, the TV money better to those teams.
Y'all talking about the whole the SMI?
Yeah, like 47% of their money is from TV. Like that's a lot.
That's insane. The fact that they made less money in ticket sales last year, but made more money overall is concerning, and it can't be a trend that continues. Like, it's nice that a lot of tracks are investing in themselves right now. Talladega is getting that new infield, ISM, obviously. A lot of tracks are investing in themselves a little bit, so that's nice. But I think they're doing that because they know in about 4 years they're going to need to draw more people to their racetrack. They're not going to be able to be as reliant on that TV money. So it's basically what you just said. But that's concerning. I think it was Denny Hamlin who I first heard say it a little over a year ago, say that, hey, some of this money needs to go to the teams and to the drivers. And people were like, Denny just wants more drivers.
Harvick said that on his podcast.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they just want more money because they're drivers. And it's like, well, sure, that's the cynical way of looking at it. But I think he has a point. It's, a lot of the teams, the purse money isn't enough for these teams to stay afloat, whereas I think back in the day it kind of was. So hopefully that's something that gets tweaked.
See, here's where I'm going to take this and kind of run with it. So I can see to a certain point that, tracks, they definitely need to be able to fund themselves so that we can actually have a facility to do the races at. And, if that means, that they have more money to put into the facility, to put into the people that run it, I get that. And for me, I don't know, Darren, obviously you're blessed with a great opportunity with Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I tried really hard when I was coming out of college. I really wanted to work with Bristol Motor Speedway. Just the unfortunate thing is that there were no job opportunities available, and maybe it's the fact that they can't afford to be hiring they can't afford to hire every person who wants to work. No one can really do that, sadly. So maybe that money that they're having to bring in just to support the facility, it's keeping everything going just so we can get through.
Yeah, that's basically it, I guess.
Should we get into picks? Because we're closing in on that 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the news? Anything else, or that's?
No, I mean, we can probably, after picks, just talk about Bristol stuff and then our big guest for episode 50.
Oh, yeah.
Small rumor going around. We don't know really how likely this has happened. Apparently, there's a rumor going around that Roger Penske wants to let Dale Jr. test an IndyCar for Indy 500, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's just a rumor.
I honestly don't think he will, though, with the health stuff and
he wouldn't do just one race, though. Just one race.
I mean, he already had problems with health and stuff, just with small crashes, really. I mean, small, I should say.
I mean, those Indy cars are pretty dangerous.
Well, this would just be a test. From what I read, it'd be just him by himself running a few laps kind of for promotional purposes. So, I mean, I feel like health would be less of a concern at that point, but
with how big he's been about concussions and about his health and stuff with his daughter, wanting to be around with her and his wife, I don't think he will. I would love to see him do it. I'd watch it, but I just think based on how he's talked from before, he's not going to put himself in a car that is, I think we can say definitively less safe than a stock car at double the speed he's been going at a track that he's, even in a stock car has never even liked.
I think the time that they should have done this is when he was with National Guard and there was a National Guard IndyCar. They should have done it then.
2011. Should have done it in 2011.
Yeah, maybe he wouldn't have crashed in the final turn. Maybe he would have won the 500. I don't know.
Anyway,
poor Hindenburg. Yeah, poor guy. But picks now, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll go ahead and go first, going into who's going to suck. Sad Alex Bowman fan here. We keep getting worse and worse. Yep, we're going to do bad again.
Okay.
Poor guy.
Well, going off that, sad Eric Jones fan over here was really disappointed by that performance at Phoenix. It sounds like, I don't know. Ooh, I'll let you talk about that super chat first, Danny, and then I'll go into it.
That's definitely good. Appreciate the $5 there from the Black Hole.
Black Hole guy.
Thank you all so much for all the great content you make for us NASCAR fans. Keep it up. P.S. Thanks for helping me with my research paper, Eric. Well,
that's right. Yeah, I traded emails with this guy. I'm glad I could help. Hopefully, I was somewhat helpful with that. So you picked Alex Bowman to suck. I'm gonna go with Eric Jones. The high-speed fast track typically I feel like would be good for him and good for Joe Gibbs Racing, but I just don't like what I've seen from that team the last 2 weeks, especially last week at ISM Raceway. The fact that they didn't even have the tires all tight, lug nuts all tight at the start of the race, like that's just like I know like it's typically when you have a 4-car team, there's one car that's getting a lot of the test equipment that's maybe not going to do as well. And with Eric Jones at Joe Gibbs Racing, it would likely fall to him. But are they also giving him the test pit crew? Is this like their first pit crew? Is this their first crew assignment or whatever it is? Like, how do you guys not have the wheels tight right before I don't know. I'm going to go with Eric Jones. I just don't feel like he was on a pretty good roll the first couple of races of the year. And now he's kind of, I don't know, I'm just worried about him. I think the pressure is going to get to him. It was really weird hearing during that Xfinity race this last weekend, hear Eric Jones in the booth calling into Christopher Bell after he won a stage. I just felt like, it's so awkward because if Gibbs drops Jones, this is a conversation we have at a different time, but if Gibbs drops Jones for Christopher Bell, I don't know how I'm going to react to that one.
Oh, wait, hold up. I didn't think about that scenario. I could see that, though, with how...
It's probably the most likely, but we should talk about that at some other time.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. My who's going to suck pick is Eric Almirola. He has an average finish of 25.7. Now, like, all these races were obviously driving for Richard Petty, but even in last year's race, let me pull it up here. I can't. Oh, great! I lost him. Where's he at? Oh, there. All right, there he is. All right. Even in last year's race, he finished 12th, a lap down. Wasn't really a factor all day. Now again, that was with the older package. So he might do something this week, but I honestly don't see it. So Eric Almirola, it's gonna suck.
All right, I'll go next. So my pick is one that is. I think if you looked at the stat sheet for Auto Club, you look and see him on the top 10 average finish list, and you go, "Why would you have him on here?" And I'm going to pull my Larry Mack and say because of trends. The trend is not good for Mr. Popularity, Chase Elliott. He finished 6th in his first start, then 10th, just like, okay, not bad, and then 16th. Well, Hendrick hasn't exactly been trending up, and it seems that Elliott his finishes seem to go with whatever trend Hendrick is going with. And yes, I know that Hendrick had some things outside, their control that were the reason that they've struggled, with flat tires. I know that Johnson was doing better this past week, but I don't see Elliott really being much of a factor this week.
Kamikaze?
I'm going to be the pessimist and say that Larson is going to be having troubles this week. He had a decent race after the bad start at Phoenix, but I'm sure that at this point the pressure is going to be up. He's going to be expected to do well, and if he doesn't, that's just going to bring the whole team down. But I hope he doesn't. But it's just the feeling that I got, so that's my pick.
Okay. The new package, I think, kind of probably takes away from some of Larson's advantage that he has at some of these bigger, faster tracks. So yeah. Underdogs then, Danny, or who starts it off? Danny?
Yes, I'll go for underdogs. And my underdog, seeing how good the Penske performance has been so far, and obviously at Daytona he did fairly well running in the pack racing we saw there. And we're not really sure what we're going to be seeing this weekend. If it is something like pack racing, what some people think we could be seeing similar to, seeing how the entire Penske team's been doing, and obviously him being an extension, I could see Paul Menard having a good run here.
I like that. That's a fun pick. I'm going to go with the guy that continues to impress me every single race this year, Kurt Busch. I think he finished 3rd, 5th, and 7th the last 3 races. I'm going for 9th. Let's go for a 9th place finish. Make it 3-5-7-9. That's what I'm betting for Kurt Busch.
I'm going to go with Daniel Suarez for my underdog pick. He has an average finish of 2 races, average finish of 15th. I'm assuming we have to it's only a matter of time before he finally gets a top 10 in that ride. So I'm assuming this is the week with this package. He was at the test, testing out this package at Fontana all the way back in January. I think he'll get it done here. Suarez, my underdog pick.
And that leaves me. Okay, so my driver's already been mentioned in. I'm gonna break the chain. We've mentioned 8 different drivers. I'm gonna break the chain.
Oh no.
My driver has been mentioned. I see him as an underdog just solely due to the fact of how he did last year. Got a top 10 last year. Has an average finish here of 9.5, which is 2nd of active drivers, granted after only a few races, to Jimmy Johnson. I'm going to go with Eric Jones. I think that people aren't seeing really him as much of a factor. They saw him being good to start the season more as a fluke, and I think he's going to prove him wrong this week and get a strong finish.
Kamikaze?
I'm going to do the Reddit pick. I'm going with De Benedetto. Just if this package actually does what people say it will do, make pack racing, he was really strong at Daytona. So if that actually is a thing that happens, which I don't think, but if it does, he might have some success from that.
I know.
And moving on to 4 to win picks. Saying again, thinking, Penske's on a roll here, and I think we'll see all the Penske cars run good, honestly, and including Menard. But I think to make the whole track happy, I'm gonna say Joey Logano on the Auto Club car, get another win.
So it's a solid pick. Fords will be good. However, I'm not picking a Ford. I'm going to pick the same guy that won here a year ago. I'm going to go with Martin Truex Jr. He's got 2 second place finishes already this year, and if the Atlanta race was 3 laps longer, if the Phoenix race was 3 laps longer, he'd already have 2 wins. So I think that 19 car – I think the question in the offseason was, are they going to pick up exactly where they left off when they were with the 78, or are they going to maybe struggle a little bit? Looks like they picked up about where they left off. So I think you're going to see a same result as last year, Martin Truex.
I'm going to go with Joey Logano. If you look at his stats here, in 12 starts, he has 0 wins, unfortunately, but he has 5 top 5s and 6 top 10s and an average finish of 14th. I feel like he'll get the job done. Those Penske cars are amazing so far in the beginning of 2019. Joey Logano in the Auto Club car at Auto Club Speedway, he's going to win it.
All right. Well, I'm going to once again be a contrarian to people. I'm not going to go along with this back and forth to Logano Truex train. My driver has a win here. 3 top 5s, and that was all his 3 top 10s have been. Finished second here last year. I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. I think that he can get the job done, and I think if he's anything like he was at Atlanta with this similar package, he will be a force to be reckoned with.
All right, Kamikaze.
I will also say Truex, and I have a reason. I have a method behind the madness for this one. So from 2016 into 2017, he won at Chicagoland both years, and we only go to Chicagoland once. 2017 to 2018, he won at Kentucky. We only go to Kentucky once. Last year, he won at California, and we only go to California once.
That's good.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
That's right. It's gonna be great.
This week in NASCAR conspiracies, Illuminati.
If Truex wins, Carnation has to clip that and edit it with Truex winning. So Carnation get with that.
Send that to Joe Gibbs Racing.
Nostradamus right here.
Oh, nobody here picked Kevin Harvick or Kyle Busch or even Brad Keselowski.
I was so close to picking Kyle Busch or Keselowski, but I'll be honest, I didn't want to pick the same people over and over again.
Yeah, I was close to picking. Brad too, but I just thought Joey would probably be a better option.
I just want to see different winners, man. Like, we're 4 for 4, and after last year's disastrous start where only like 4 guys won the first.
Just the racing overall to start.
Yeah.
The first 16 races of the year last year were pretty awful.
They were pretty bad. So, I mean, compared to last year, it's been a pretty good start to the season so far. And I think it'll be 5 for 5 this week.
What's so weird is that, I feel like, 2018, obviously, it just felt like it's the same people winning for the longest time. But then 2016 and 2017 feel like they had so many different winners.
Yeah.
Yep. And should we just do any updates if we want to that a few of us are going to Bristol for sure now?
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Bristol trip is happening, folks. I tweeted it out yesterday. We got our tickets. And
we did at least, yeah. We got a row.
Yeah, we have a whole row full of NASCAR YouTubers. Should we tell them the seats where we're going to be sitting?
Oh, no.
No.
I wouldn't tell them that.
However, we can go ahead and tell you that if anyone's interested in coming to the race and meeting us, we will have probably some time we'll be taking to actually just find an area just to meet up with everybody and get to know you, sign anything. If you even want my autograph, I don't know why you would.
Time to take over the tweet up.
Yeah.
And it's the night race, just to make that clear to people. The August race at Bristol.
Yeah, August race. Sorry, I didn't say that. Yeah, some people were confused at the tweet I tweeted out yesterday. Like, oh, this race? Oh, I'm gonna be there in a few weeks. I'm like, oh, sorry, we're going to the night race. Sorry, man.
But we got a few people that are pretty pumped. So
yeah, so
we can see all there.
We're planning on going to all 3, the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup race, and for those races, we're gonna wear our ugliest NASCAR shirts. So,
well, maybe just for the Saturday one. I don't know.
Or maybe I don't know. I'll try to do all 3, but
we'll chicken, cheap.
I'm just not gonna waste a bunch of money on some ugly NASCAR shirts.
Don't waste money.
All I got are good-looking NASCAR shirts.
Yeah,
those exist.
Yeah, all in my closet.
Only a few.
All 3 of them are in my closet right now.
They're an endangered species.
Mm-hmm.
And also next week, the podcast is supposed to be on my channel. Don't worry, I have a feeling 3rd time's a charm. It'll be on my channel next week, and our special guest
special guest. So we actually mentioned him earlier in there, and I just sort of played it off. But so I don't know how long he'll be on, but it should be. It's pretty fun because we are going to get on none other than Emperor Lemon. Emp Lemon, he'll be on the show next week. Seems like he's a pretty cool guy from going back and forth with him. So tune into Darian's channel. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be in my channel, not the first 10 minutes on my channel, then go over to like Jarrett's or Eric's or something like that. No, for sure, the full 2-hour stream is on Black Flags Matter next week. Or it's planned to be.
And there can always be a backup channel if need be.
Yeah.
Yeah. 50th episode. Remember that, 50th episode.
Yeah, 50. I always get the good ones. Well, I mean, the last one was the finale. That was a historic one. And now the 50th, it's an honor.
Yeah, excited for next week's show. For those of you who don't know who Emperor Lemon is, he is the one who made that Dale Earnhardt video from last week. He's got over 400,000 subscribers on YouTube. I mean, that's about all I know about him, but he seems like he's pretty.
I think it's over 500,000 actually. So.
Is it over 500? Oh goodness!
No, I think it's 400,000, like 430,000, I believe.
Either way, like the videos he's made, I've been following him for. I didn't realize I've loved a lot of his videos for a long time. He's a very good creator, and I think you guys should sub to him.
As you should subscribe to all the channels associated with this podcast.
Yes. Because just like Emp Lemon, we are also entrenched in memes and meme culture. We're connoisseurs of memes.
Love a good meme.
Whoa!
All right, I think
what just happened?
Yeah, I think we're hitting our limit.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
With that being said, anything else from you guys before we head out?
Been a fun show tonight.
Black Flags Matter. Remember that.
Just got to roll the outro. That's all I got. What about you, Kamikaze? What do you got, man?
Speaking of memes, I got one coming that I've been working on the last 2 days.
Ooh,
and
great.
Oh, it's good. It is good. So it should be hopefully out tomorrow.
Yeah, and shout out to Kamikaze for being here the whole time, and shout out to Austin Theriault as well. I can't say his name right. Theriault. I don't know.
Theriault.
I don't know how to say his name, but
it's Theriault. I made sure I asked him, how do I say your name? Because I'm gonna mess it up. Theriault.
Oh, it is Theriault. Okay, well, Austin, if you're still watching, thank you a ton for being on the show for the first half. That was a lot of fun.
He also has a YouTube channel. I saw it. It's like. It just look up his name on YouTube and
y'all can't hide nothing from us.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching, and Danny, cue the 5-minute outro.
Heck yeah, you know it. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and hope y'all have a great day. Bye, guys.